Let's get back to the Connor Happer Show on 1620 The Zone.
First hour here of the Connor Happer Show. John Schreiner sitting in. Josh Hodson's still here.
I'm not going anywhere.
Connor's off again.
Typical Connor.
Does he ever work?
Just goes to Vegas all the time.
Second time in 2 weeks. Yeah. I mean, once is a coincidence, Josh.
Yep. Got ourselves a trend.
All right. Basketball heavy show today. It's that time of year. Another national championship on the line tonight. UConn and Purdue. If you were asked in, let's say, mid-December to pick the two teams you thought would be playing for the national championship, this is probably the matchup you would have said.
Definitely.
They've been the two best teams all season. I don't think that anybody expected much different. Unless, Purdue did a Purdue again.
It was on the table, but if you've listened to this show, Connor and I didn't think that was going to happen.
So I just want to look back at the Final Four games a little bit. Purdue, NC State, that was an ugly game. That wasn't a good game to watch. A lot of missed shots, a lot of North Carolina State trying to push Zach Edey around. And the first half was, I found myself looking at my phone a lot. But, eventually Edey made enough baskets, kept him at bay. DJ Burns was a fun story. Zach Edey's about 7 inches taller than him. And look, Purdue's got enough around Edey with the shooters that it was just going to be really hard for NC State to contend with that. And honestly, after I watched Purdue play their first 2 games of the tournament, I was like, okay, this is different now. They're not going home early. And then UConn Bama, I think, was what we expect in a Final Four game. Runs back and forth, high drama, electric up and down play, stars being stars. It was sort of like an everything everywhere from everyone. Like every player who saw the floor was impacting the game. But for UConn, I think they showed again that they have so many different ways to hurt you offensively. Like you've got Kling Kong on the inside. You've got Tristan Newton. You've got the freshman Stephen Castle. Like they're just so good. I mean, Caravan can score, helps out on the defensive end. They are a juggernaut, man. And so the matchup between the two tonight, I know everyone's pointing to Edey against Klingon, 7-2 against 7-4. And I just have this feeling that those two are going to cancel each other out to some degree. Because Klingon has enough size and agility to be able to defend Zach Edey, I think. And Edey has, the size to be able to slow down Klingon at least a little bit on the defensive end. I think Klingon's probably quite a bit faster, though. So that may be a factor. I think this game is going to be won and lost on the perimeter. Guard play.
It's what the tournament's all about.
And I just feel like UConn's guards are better. And like Fletcher Lawyer, okay. Yeah, fine. That's fine. But when you've got Newton, Spencer, Castle for UConn, Braden Smith, Only had 3 points in that game against North Carolina State. Basically shut down, made one shot. Lance Jones has been a nice story in the tournament. But for me, like Edey Klingon, it's just sort of 1-1. We cancel each other out there. So this game's won on the perimeter. And I think the athleticism and the size of UConn is going to win out here. That UConn was my pick coming into the Final Four. Now, don't trust me. I'm very bad at picking games. I've said this a number of times. I picked Houston to win the national championship in my official bracket.
Oof.
Whoops.
I picked Purdue over UConn.
How about you? It's setting up to be a really fun game, though, I think, because UConn isn't going to play Purdue the way a lot of the teams in the tournament have tried to play Purdue. Like, we're going to try to keep the ball out of Edey's hands. We're not going to run. We're going to just, play slow. Don't go inside. Shoot it from the outside. UConn's not going to be afraid. They've got a big body of their own on the inside. And this is going to be like a proper basketball game. It's not going to be that boring slog that we saw in the first half of Purdue, NC State. And look, that's not an indictment at all of NC State. They kind of had to play that way. UConn won't play that way. UConn's going to be UConn. And look, Danny Hurley has been a better version of himself. His antics on the sideline have been toned down a bit because I felt like in the past, not necessarily last season, I suppose, but sometimes the team takes on the attitude of the coach, and when he goes nuclear and his hair's on fire and he's running up and down the sideline, that doesn't inspire a bunch of confidence in the team. And I think you can lose the mentality of a team by showing that way. I think he's toned it down, and it shows in this UConn team. They just march forward through everything. Alabama had a run at the beginning of that game. UConn was leading again by halftime. So him being more calm, more in control of his emotions, seems like it's helped this version of UConn a lot. And overall athleticism, shot making ability, all marks in the UConn box. I think they get this one done. So there's your national championship prediction. There's your preview, and the things I think are you sticking with your Purdue prediction?
I am gonna stick with it just out of principle, but UConn has felt inevitable this entire tournament.
Well, I appreciate you for not backtracking your pick. I like that.
I'm a man of principle,
right,
if nothing else.
All right, we got to get to the second hour because Josh Odson watched WrestleMania and he's got things to say. I will add color where I can.
Please do. It's more fun that way.
All right. Hour number 2 coming up. Connor Happer Show, 1620 The Zone.
Live from the Host Coffee Studio, this is 1620 The Zone.